5 haunting true stories from Reddit.
I was trained to deliver bad news, not to the dead themselves. I've been in law enforcement for over 16 years and have seen more than my fair share of tragic, creepy, and downright unexplainable things on the job. From murder scenes to suicides to fatality accidents. Sometimes a place just feels different. There was one call I went to, a death notification, that really freaked me out. I had to contact some family members of a deceased woman that was involved in a fatal car accident a few miles away from her home. When I arrived, I met a woman near the roadway, just inside the property gate. She said she heard me coming from miles away. I asked her if she lived at the residence, which she confirmed she did. After asking her to speak with me at the house, she agreed but said she needed the walk as the house was about 75 yards from the road. After making it to the house, I approached the front door on a small wooden porch and began scanning the driveway for the woman. It was about 1 a.m. and completely dark. While looking for the woman, the front door opened and a younger woman appeared. She was concerned about my presence and asked if everything was okay. I asked if I could speak with her and any other adults inside, and she welcomed me in. I told her I would wait for the woman I met near the gate, and she told me nobody else should be home. I then freaked out and began searching the property. Nothing. After entering the residence, I told her and her husband the news about Susan, which ended up being her mother. She said her mother moved in a few months back after her father had passed and wasn't handling it well. While she and her husband were comforting one another, I began looking at photos on the wall. There was this picture of a mid-aged woman that stuck out to me. She was a younger version of the woman I spoke with near the gate. While looking at the picture, the daughter confirmed that was her mother, the woman that passed in the wreck. I spoke with the ghost of the individual that died in the crash just before telling her family what happened.
I watched a man die on my birthday, and I still hear the sound every night. Happened to me just this past summer, on my birthday of all days. I was with some friends watching a World Cup game on a big outdoor screen, just chilling, drinking, and watching the game in the glorious sunshine. Behind the screen, there was this big multi-story car park. The screen and the building were separated by a narrow walled alleyway. Anyway, out of nowhere, something catches my eye. On the roof of the car park, a guy is standing on the ledge. I open my mouth to speak, but before I can say a word, the dude just jumped. He landed in the alleyway, and I'll never forget the sound of his body slamming against the tarmac. Myself and a few others instinctively ran to him, stupidly thinking that maybe, just maybe, he survived and needed help. He didn't survive. When we got to him, his head was wide open and his brains were on the floor. All of his bones were broken, and some were protruding from his body. I've never seen injuries like that before, and I was very unprepared for that. For a long time, and still to this day, I wonder if he ever imagined that, even in his darkest moment, there were literally dozens of strangers just a few dozen feet away that would have gladly come to his aid and spent the rest of the night listening to him, and that I would have done just about anything to help him out of that hell. For a while, I grieved hard for a tormented man whom I encountered just a few moments too late.
I've worked closing shifts at the grocery store for a year. I've seen drunk people, weird people, and creeps. But I've never seen anything like him. I'm 16, and I work at the local grocery store. I've had the job for about a year now. Since I'm still in high school, I don't work during the day. I usually get scheduled for 3 weekday shifts, mostly closing from 6 to 10. This past Wednesday seemed like a normal night. It was around 9, maybe 9:30, and I was just waiting for my shift to end. I was up near the front of the store, restocking cans, when I noticed a man walk in. I'm not great at guessing ages, but he looked like he was around 40. He was average height, maybe 5'10", and had this really pale skin, like he hadn't been outside in a long time. His clothes didn't look dirty or anything, but they felt off. Almost like they didn't fit quite right, like he had put on someone else's outfit. It was a plain gray hoodie and black jeans, but the hoodie sat too tight around the neck, and the sleeves were too short. What caught my attention was the way he moved. He looked stiff, like inhumanly stiff. He was walking as if he didn't have any joints, just kind of rigid and unnatural. His arms hung straight at his sides, barely swinging, and his feet hit the floor hard with every step. It creeped me out a little, but I ignored it and kept working. A few minutes later, I finished, and my manager told me to restock some more things near the back of the store. So I grabbed the cart and headed back. And then the man appeared again. Same strange walk. He looked like he was searching for something but had no idea what it was. When he noticed me, he walked over and asked where the soda was. His voice was haunting, cold and flat, like there was no emotion behind it. It made me feel uneasy. Up close, his face looked wrong. Not scary, just wrong. His skin was smooth in a way that didn't look natural, almost plastic. His eyes were sunken, but not in a tired way. They just looked hollow. And the weirdest part was how he blinked. It was slow, like someone acting out what blinking is supposed to look like. I told him what aisle it was in, and then he did something that really freaked me out. He repeated my exact sentence word for word, then said, "Thank you." That might not sound super weird, but in the moment, it felt off. I finished up and went back to my manager. I looked around for the guy, but I couldn't find him anywhere. He must have left. I asked my manager if she'd seen him, but she said no. I asked the cashier later, and he said she had noticed his weird walk, but he hadn't bought anything. I went home and tried to forget about it, but I had trouble sleeping. I kept thinking about his face. It was uncanny, like a copy of a real person. It just didn't feel right. It's been a few days, and I still can't get his face, or the way he walked, out of my head.
I found a strange stone book on a mountain when I was 8. The second my dad saw the symbols, he screamed and threw it away. What was on that rock, and why does my dad still deny it happened? When I was 8 years old, I went on a mountain hiking trip in my city with my family. While walking, I came across a strange stone that looked like a book. It had carvings and writings in languages I couldn't understand, and for some reason, it felt like it was calling to me. My sister didn't come with us on the trip, so I thought, this would make a cool gift for her. I picked up the stone and told my dad that I was going to give it to my sister as a present. The moment he saw it, his face changed. He got really angry and yelled at me to throw it away immediately. Before I could react, he snatched it from my hand and threw it far away. Then he grabbed me and told us we were leaving right now. We went down the mountain quickly, and to this day, I have no explanation for my dad's reaction or what that strange stone was. It still gives me chills whenever I think about it. What makes this even weirder is that when I grew older and asked my dad about it, sometimes he acted like he didn't hear me, and other times he just said he didn't remember anything about it. But I know he remembers. Even now, if I ever talk about going on adventures near that same mountain, he reminds me very seriously never to go there again.
I didn't realize until after. I decided to tell this story tonight because it is now 12:38 a.m. on December 8th, and it would have been my dad's birthday. I was one of his best friends. My parents divorced when I was 15, and he had met Laura a few months later. My dad was an alcoholic, but not the worst I've ever seen. When I was 19, I moved about 45 minutes away to attend college, so I wasn't living with him and his girlfriend anymore. My dad called me late one afternoon, a week before Christmas, and said, "Laura's leaving me. She's packing her stuff right now. Can you come get me? I don't want effing be here." I drove there immediately. When I walked in that door, for the first and only time, my dad hugged me and sobbed on my shoulder like he was the child and I was the adult. I would wager that as one of the saddest and scariest moments of my life. Eventually, I convinced him to come and spend the night at my place. We had driven maybe 2 minutes through town when he told me to stop at the liquor store. I reluctantly did. When he came back to the car, he sighed, almost sounding defeated. "Take me back?" I refuted, "No, just come with me. You don't really need to be there right now. It's going to be okay. Why do you want to go back?" "Nah, just take me back." He shakes his head. "No, you're coming with me." Her. "I'll roll a big joint. You can sleep on—" "Take me back," he growled. I sighed and, Against my intuition, I did. On the way back to his place, I played him the song Overcome by the band, live. The lyrics say, "Holy water in my lungs." We both cried. I called him twice a day, every day for 3 days. He was extremely depressed. I asked him what he was eating, and he said, "Beer and Campbell's soup." That third night, he was slurring his words on the phone, told me he had gone to the bar and fallen on the way home, but was okay. Just pain on his left side. The next morning, my flip phone rings around 6 a.m. It was my dad. I whispered groggily, "Dad? Britt, I'm coughing up blood." I sat up quickly. "You what?" "Coughing blood?" A coughing fit on the other end ensues. "Can you come and take me to my family doctor?" I asked him a few more questions and, against his wishes, I called him an ambulance. Later that day, I went to the hospital. When I walked past his curtain in ER, he was sitting on the edge of his bed. I recall thinking he looked like a cancer patient. "Oh, God, what's going on?" "They said I have pneumonia. My left lung's full of fluid," he said, and then he hung his head sadly. He was there for 5 days. They gave him Ativan and other things to help with withdrawals. I was there every day after school. He tried so hard to leave the hospital. I had to stop him from taking out the butterfly IV and messing with the monitors. I told him when he gets out, he can come home with me and everything will be fine. He became increasingly angry with me this particular day. This time, I was so frustrated with him, I turned to leave without a hug. My boyfriend at the time stopped me outside the door. "You should give your old man a hug," he whispered. I turned around and gave my dad an awkward hug in his wheelchair and left. I'm a very sound sleeper. Once I'm asleep, I never wake up. That night at 3:24 a.m., I jolted awake and sat up on my elbow, panting and sweating, seemingly for no reason. Looked at the clock, noted it, and just went back to sleep. I was again jolted awake around 7 a.m. by my ex-boyfriend. The cops were at our door. They told me to have a seat on my couch, asked who I was, asked about my dad. I answered them hesitantly, thinking my dad was in trouble for some reason. My dad had died. Doctor told us later that day that his official time of death was 3:24 a.m. I didn't realize until later. That's when I was jolted awake, the moment my dad died. Later that night, I had a weird vision-like dream. Never had a dream like this before or since. Remember the old TVs when you couldn't find a channel? Gray static? That's what the background of this was. He was standing in front of me, looking sad and softly crying. He says to me verbatim, "Are you sad?" Confused and frustrated, I choked out, "Yeah, I'm sad." He quietly said, "It's okay, I'm sad too." I jolted awake, my face already soaked in tears, and more confused than ever. To this day, I can hardly get through the last song we ever listened to together. The line, "Holy water in my lungs," gets me every time. Happy birthday, Dad.
Tell me what your most haunting encounter has been. Happy Halloween.